Thank you, Stephen. Hello, everyone. Yes, the Patriarch has been speaking for some time now about active neutrality of Lebanon. He thinks Lebanon was created, it came into existence in 1920. This is the 100th anniversary as the Great Lebanon. There always Lebanon been, this is a country, always the name Lebanon as a country. The borders were not the same, but 1920 was the Great Lebanon was announced, was the existence of Lebanon. The sovereignty of Lebanon came in 1943. And he thinks right now, the active neutrality we give Lebanon is stability and prosperity. And he thinks in the mind of the founders, yes, it was not written active neutrality, but in practice, this is all about. When they did in 1943, said no to the West, no to the East, just to be living together as one community, one country. That means they wanted to be neutral in that perspective. And he said, at that time, this was the driving force behind Lebanon's foreign relations and defense policy, because Lebanon is so small, we're not in the place and in position to enter into military wars with anybody. We don't have that. We wanted just to live peacefully and to become Lebanon really the hub of the Middle East and the hub of the Arab world and the bridge between East and West. In fact, that's what Pope John Paul II intended to be when he called for the Synod for Lebanon and the apostolic exhortation that a new hope for Lebanon. He wanted that Lebanon to become always a message between that. What's interesting, the Patriarch said in the document he published on August 7, even the French commissioner at that time, back in 1920, right before when they wanted to kind of form and write the constitution of the Great Lebanon, Henri de Jouvenel asked at that time the constitution of Switzerland. He wanted to see if he could take some of the ways and the bylaws and everything from Switzerland to really incorporate them in Lebanon as well. And the Patriarch emphasizing the idea, even the Arab League, they took, the decision of the League won't not be binding, even if they take it unanimously on Lebanon. He said, Lebanon is a state of support, not of confrontation. And that's why the Patriarch wanted to get to that neutrality, because right now, unfortunately, we've lost it. We lost it because of the outside and foreign interference on the Lebanese soil and in the Lebanese government. At this time, mainly Iran and and Syria and through Hezbollah and everything is hijacking the role of the Lebanese and the state of Lebanon as well. And that's why the Patriarch said, forget about all the outside world. Let's live. Let's free ourselves from all those things. Let's be neutral. We don't have to be against this. We don't have to be with this, against that. We want just to be Lebanese. We want just to be for Lebanon. We want just to be open to everybody and live happily and prosper, in prosperity and everything. And this is what he called it the policy of wisdom and the prudence in that perspective. And that's what, in his mind, this would kind of maintain the unity and the stability of Lebanon from that perspective. And anytime we deviated from that, he mentioned that the Cairo Accord in 1967, when they allowed the Palestinians to carry weapons in Lebanon and they fight against Israel. This was bringing it down, Lebanon. The civil war, all that started shaking this. He said, we don't want to be in any military activities against anybody. We want to be really living in peace and everything. That way would ensure that perspective, active neutrality. He said it in 3 dimensions, the active neutrality. First dimension is the definitive refusal of Lebanon to join coalitions. We're not one against other. We're not with Syria against Saudi Arabia. We're not with Saudi Arabia against, any country. We're not. And we don't want to be in the pocket of Iran against or anything. The second thing, the second dimension, that Lebanon will always remain committed to the cause of the human rights and freedom. We want to be part of that. We're not like, washing our hands. We don't want to be. No, what's just and right, but we do it in diplomatic way. We're not there to carry weapons and declare wars or anything like that. And the third dimension is really strengthening the state of Lebanon through its various institutions, the military, judicial, legislative, executive, in every way, to become a true country, sovereign country, stable country from that perspective. And that's what he's appealing from that point. Unfortunately, Lebanon right now is the proxy, become a kind of the land and the terrain for proxy wars, Iran fighting Saudi Arabia or Iran upset at United States. They take revenge in Lebanon. We don't want that state because we Lebanese suffer. The others don't. We are the ones who carry the burden and suffer. And that's what brought our people and our country way down from that perspective. He said, what are the benefits of such a neutrality? Neutrality helps to make sure that really will keep Lebanon united, because if we're going through that trend, many Lebanese said, forget about it. We don't want to live with Hezbollah. We don't want to be under their thumb. We want to be free. We want to live. I don't want the problem. As they say, I don't want to be in the pocket of Iran. I don't need those. I want to live. I want to survive and everything. Said, by being neutral, by being a true country, this will make sure Lebanon will remain united and stable. But also, if we are neutral, Lebanon is neutral, all the sectors, the economic sector, the banking and financial, Lebanon used to be the banking and financial hub of the Arab world and everything. One of the best system banking, unfortunately now is suffering, is almost bankrupting that. The health sector, used to be what we call health tourism, because if they wanted the good doctors in the Middle East, they come to Lebanon. The tourism destination, people that could really ski and swim at the same time, in Lebanon, within half an hour, 40 minutes. Education was the best education in the Middle East. And this was all those things bringing Lebanon to make it really the Switzerland of the Middle East, and Beirut becoming the Paris of the Middle East as well. That's what he's talking about, active neutrality. Then we won't need help. We won't need a humanitarian aid. We won't need all those things. We could survive. We could make it happen. Just get the war out. Get the really being in the hands of Iran or anybody else. We want it to be free. We want to be independent. We want it to be sovereign. And that's what he's appealing to the Arab world and international community, to recognize the neutrality of Lebanon, so that Lebanon would become a true, sovereign, stable country from that perspective. I hope I gave a good summary of in the time.